My name is Rob Maroos. I'm the senior writer-editor in the Mayor's Office of Communications, and I'm standing in for Doxy McCoy today, who's out of the country. I have a few announcements before we get started. The Board of Elections and Ethics wants to remind us that early voting has started for the April 3rd primary. It is already happening right now at the BOE headquarters at 1 Judiciary Square on 441 4th Street Northwest in the old council chambers. Also, a couple of other things to point out that you have press releases for in your packets. We sent this one out yesterday. The Office of the Chief Technology Officer got a prestigious international award from Computer World magazine for a very efficiency improving program called the Information Technology Staff Augmentation Contract Program that actually helps them more efficiently get government contractors for IT services. Also, another thing to point out for you, to reiterate the fact that we pointed out last week, that unemployment for the first time in more than 2 years in the district has finally dropped beneath 10% to 9.9%. That's an achievement we hope will continue happening. Without further ado, the mayor is here, so I'll give you Mayor Vincent C. Gray.
Good morning. Good morning. I think this is an exciting day for the Department of Parks and Recreation. I think we know that for any number of years, the DPR, I don't know how many years, decades I guess, has been on 16th Street. And this provides an opportunity for DPR to be in a new central office. And it, I guess, signals not only just a move from an old location to a new location, but also symbolizes the changes that are going on in the agency, and Jesus is going to talk about those shortly. District residents and even DPR staff have been looking forward to the transformation of DPR, and it's something that Jesus and I have talked about on any number of occasions. It's pretty amazing what DPR has. Just listen to this: 199 basketball courts, 164 tennis courts, 95 ball fields, 66 recreation centers, 1 new noisy elevator, 15 pools, and over 900 acres of green space, and literally hundreds of activities and events which they conduct year-round. When I asked Jesús Aguirre to take this on during our administration, I indicated to him that I wanted to transform the agency, and at the same time he indicated to me that there were some ideas he had that he wanted to see implemented as well. And through a very lengthy conversation, I think we realized that there's an enormous amount of congruence between our respective ideas. I think it's true that parks and recreation agencies across the nation obviously are responsible for a multitude of roles: programming for children, youth, adults, seniors, social service activities, fitness and nutrition providers, virtually everybody. What would you say? At least got to be 1 out of 3, 1 out of 2 people who are served by DPR in the city, and one of them actually would be me as a customer, because I continue to play softball in the city. Now that the new Department of General Services has assumed the maintenance and upkeep of DPR facilities, which they are now doing for any number of agencies in the city, this will now give DPR an even greater opportunity to focus on its new core values: respect, excellence, constant learning, integrity, and service. They're also striving towards programs that are strategically aligned with the needs of our community and that are outcomes based. DPR now has a new slogan, right? Move, grow, and be green. And one focuses on physical fitness, the other on personal enrichment, and yet the third around being green on environmental stewardship, which is consistent with the sustainability plan that we are continuing to develop and will roll out the first phases of in April. Actually, DPR began transforming itself last year. One of the first moves was to have an agency-wide staff development training and DPR is continuing to grow a talented team. For example, last year, Tiffany Johnson from Turkey Thicket Recreation Center received the Young Professional of the Year Award from the National Recreation and Parks Association. Mark Williams from Fort Grable received a K-Fritz Award, which is really coveted, for outstanding customer service. And Chief of Staff John Stokes, where's John? Oh, there he is. That's right, he's quieting the elevator, right, John? Was voted the best civil servant in the city by the Washington City paper. No, that's not only quite a statement, but having been selected by the city paper is an even greater comment. How about a big hand for John? As I mentioned in the State of the District speech earlier this year, every public servant has to be fully committed to providing excellent customer services. DPR has already demonstrated that it can do that and will continue to do just that as we move forward. For the first time anyone can remember, DPR closed all of their facilities twice for a one-day all-staff development training, which I had the opportunity to attend over at National Stadium. And I want to tell you the energy level in that room was absolutely outstanding. Not only the energy, but the enthusiasm and the optimism for what can be done in this area. The new DPR activities fit in nicely with our vision of one city. Job creation, as you notice on your way up here, hopefully you notice, DPR is recruiting now for summer jobs, especially lifeguard jobs. DPR just recently hired, did you hire 40 new staff members in the recent past? The agency will be providers of summer jobs and will play, of course, a key role. The pools will open on the 25th of May this year, and will be open on the weekends until school is out, and then, of course, throughout the summer. DPR works with MPD on issues of safety in partnership on events and other outreach activities. Our roving leaders have been for many, many years an important part of reaching out to the community in the city. And despite a budget drop by about 30% since 2008, DPR continues to work hard to provide services and have raised additional revenues through permit fees and other approaches. DPR offers activities such as after-school access, homework and GED assistance, and cooperative play that all contribute to the education and well-being of our residents. Just in terms of east of the river, for example, in Ward 8, we're building a new boxing annex and renovated recreation center at Bald Eagle, which I believe is the training for our world champion, Lamont Peterson, and his brother as well. And we're also in the throes of finishing the construction of a new Fort Stanton Recreation Center, which will be open this year. DPR is playing a major role in the new Sustainability DC initiative, which I alluded to earlier. And I think the guide that we are going to issue beginning today. Do we have a copy of that? Is that it? Okay. Are we issuing a new cover today? This is, I think, the largest guide that we've ever had, and will list literally hundreds of programs offered by DPR. It's an invaluable resource on how people can enjoy the summer, from Zumba and learning how to swim to line dancing and movie nights, which will be all across the city. And will be available, I guess, in print, but more importantly, will be available online at dpr.dc.gov. And again, will be in limited edition at certain facilities. The guide also mentions that most parents are already thinking about camps, sports camps, aquatic camps, green camps, Spanish immersion camps, and a whole host of those, and that information will be available as well. So to give a little bit more detail about the Reformation, the Renaissance, the metamorphosis, wow, those are great words, I like those, yeah. Of DPR, please join me in welcoming our director, Jesús Aguirre.
Those are great words that make me nervous. Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for getting us here today, but also for your ongoing support, both of me and of the agency of DPR since you've been here. I want to also highlight a couple of folks, Deputy Mayor Bibi Otero, who also thank you so much for your unyielding support for DPR and your guidance as we move, as the Mayor says, to metamorphosize this agency. City Administrator Alan Liu, who's really been a partner with us throughout this whole process, and of course Brian Hanlon from the Department of General Services, who not just helped get us here physically, but also, as the Mayor said, is allowing us to focus on programming by taking on the tasks of maintaining and building all of our facilities. Thank you all for being here this morning. We're excited, obviously, not just because we get to share with you our new home, but we're also excited here to have an opportunity to share with you the great work that the 500 members of the DPR team have been engaged in over the past years and will be engaged in the coming months, weeks, months, and beyond. With the support of the Mayor, as he stated, I was tasked with transforming the agency so that we could consistently provide high levels of service that the residents of the District of Columbia deserve. And this wasn't just based on our performance in recent years, but really it was based on the fact that our jobs have changed at DPR. The expectations that Parks and Recreation departments across the country are operating under have changed. We're now expected to be healthcare providers, social service providers, educators, environmentalists, and so much more. And all of these increased expectations have come to us in an era of ever decreasing public revenues across the country. So Mayor Gray, I'm happy to report that we've made a great deal of progress towards transforming DPR into a high-performing, mission-driven organization. Indeed, as you stated, this physical move is just one of many initiatives that we've been engaged in as we work to honor your challenge to us. Over the past year, we focused on strategic planning, long-term improvement, and as a team, we've had honest and open discourse about our performance and about our mission and the strategic direction of our agency. We developed a new set of core values that you spoke about that are really rooted in the spirit of why people come to work at DPR. We've also changed our organizational structure to reflect our new focus on programming and to allow us to leverage the many outside resources that are available to us. As we've done this, we've held open houses, we've surveyed our constituents, we've explored best practices, we've revised our agency mission, and we developed agency performance objectives that are aligned with this new mission and the strategic direction of DPR. The new mission of DPR is simple: to enhance the quality of life and wellness of DC residents and visitors by providing equal access to affordable and quality recreational services. We do this by organizing programs, activities, and events, and in partnership with DGS by building and maintaining safe and beautiful open spaces and recreational amenities. While we're not able to continue to do everything for everyone all the time, our mission covers all district residents, as you said, Mr. Mayor: children, teenagers, and young youth, adults, seniors, and dogs. Our new core values will be at the root of how we hold ourselves accountable and how we expect the residents of the District of Columbia to hold us accountable. So the values of respect, excellence, constant learning, integrity, service, as I said, are at the root of how we want to hold ourselves accountable and how we expect you all to hold us accountable. These are at the core of how we will operate in our new jobs. We've also programs to ensure that they are strategically aligned with our mission and are of high quality. We want to make sure that they're aligned with the needs of our communities, aligned with best practices, and that there are clear outcomes that are associated with these activities. To make this work, you need a great team, and DPR, for the first time in a long time, is focused on professional development for our staff, and we will continue to do this as we build and retain a great team. We're also improving our recruitment and hiring to ensure that we're able to continue to attract the best people to join our team, and you'll hear from one of those folks in a minute. With our programs, all of our programs, as the Mayor said, will focus on 3 domains, and these are captured in, as he said, our new slogan: move, grow, and be green. And these domains will allow us to focus on our mission and make sure that we're aligned with the initiatives that are put forth by the National Recreation and Parks Association and with these increased expectations that are placed upon us. The MOVE domain is one that I think everyone is more familiar with when you think about Parks and Recreation. It's focused on fitness and healthy living. We have lots of activities, whether there are sports teams, our fencing, tennis, skateboarding, also things like line dancing, Zumba, and healthy living are all under this domain. The GROW domain speaks to personal enrichment, and this is for all ages, from the youngest to our oldest residents, and it includes everything from our existing programs like our teen programs, arts and crafts, book clubs, college prep. In fact, actually, we have a group of girls that are going on a college tour this weekend to Maryland and Pennsylvania with some of our young DPR leaders. And then the final initiative is the Be Green initiative, and this is about environmental stewardship. And as the mayor said, this is aligned with the Sustainable DC efforts and really working to make sure that Parks and Recreation can contribute to ensuring that DC is a sustainable city. We already do lots of work around this with our Green Buds camps, environmental education classes with UDC. We do community gardens, and we have several beehives across the city as well. In the coming weeks, please expect to see much more on our Move, Grow, and Be Green campaign. Mr. Mayor, I did want to share a few of our accomplishments in the recent years as we're coming along to transform the agency. And it's important to, as you said, DPR does a lot of work, and we're used to saying we do everything for everyone all the time, and we're trying to stop saying that. But we're trying to say more that we're going to do everything we do is going to be of high quality. Over the last 12 months or so, DPR has issued 1,300 permits and held 420 events. We've improved our vetting process for our partner groups. We revamped our volunteer management process and launched an online volunteer application. We increased all of our youth programming, including baseball programming, to establish a rookie baseball league, and we're looking forward to continuing to work with the Washington Nationals in the city on the Baseball Academy in Ward 7. We launched for the first time ever a girls softball team. We continue hosting our annual Black History Swim Meet, which brings over 800 athletes from across the country to compete here in DC. Again, 2 of our football teams competed in the Pop Warner National Championships, and 1 again brought home the national championship. We've got several cheerleading teams that compete and win citywide and national championships. We had over 2,500 seniors participate in our annual senior picnic. As we stated, we hired over 480 employees last summer and look to hire over 500 employees this summer as we work to staff our pools with lifeguards and our camps. I'm also proud to say that we continue to have one of the most successful summer meals programs in the country in terms of the number of eligible children who have access to meals. Last year we had over 200 sites in addition to our own sites that serve meals for children. We're going to continue to do that this year. And we've had many ribbon cuttings and groundbreakings for facilities across the city. We also obviously have a lot of work to do. We're going to continue to leverage all of our resources. We mentioned our partnership with the Department of General Services. We're going to begin to sell sponsorships and implement a fundraising plan to help supplement our resources. We're expanding our partnership portfolio. We're increasing our volunteer workforce. We also are going to continue to do the basics better. We're revamping all of our policies and procedures. Actually, next week we're launching a new online permitting system that's really going to take the current paper-based system into sort of the new century, I guess. We're also going to launch new customer service training and manuals in the next month. We're going to continue our year-round professional development courses that are focused on outcomes-based programming, customer service, communications, program assessments, as well as the basics of ethics and management and other things that our staff needs. And we're implementing our new outcomes-based program starting this summer. We're going to implement internal quality control assessments as well as external evaluations of our programs. So indeed, we've got lots of work to do. Obviously here at DPR, we're also looking forward to a great summer. As the mayor mentioned, today we're releasing our 2012 spring and summer guide that is going to be available primarily online, and we're going to make some limited copies, particularly for our seniors. So we ask that you take an opportunity to look beyond just the cover, and John is passing out some copies, but really look into we ask residents to do some research about all the great programs and activities that we have and that we're offering across the summer. As we've stated, we're actively recruiting for summer employment, including lifeguards, camp counselors, and more. We're hiring more than 500 people this summer, including 1,300 summer youth employment participants that are going to be working with us throughout our facilities across the city. And of course, at DPR and in DC, what is summer without camps? This year in DPR, we're hosting over 100 camps across the city that will meet all types of interests and levels this year. We have camps, Little Explorers camps, aquatics camps, teen camps, tween camps, green bud camps. We have a new Spanish immersion camps, and we have therapeutic recreation camps as well. And I should say that residents have begun to discover the great value that DPR offers for these high-quality camps. So folks will have to register early, as there has been more interest than ever before in our summer camp offerings. And finally, pool season is coming, and for the 3rd year in a row, as the mayor stated, DPR will open all of our outdoor aquatics facilities at the same time on Memorial Day weekend. and we'll get more information to come on that. And just to wrap up, I'm pleased to say, Mr. Mayor, that the agency is indeed moving forward. And I want to thank all of you for coming to our new central office. But more importantly, I want to thank the residents of the District of Columbia for their continued support in our efforts as we strive to become a high-performing, mission-driven organization. And to end, I want to send a special note of gratitude. I'd like to thank all of the nearly 500 members of the DPR team who work tirelessly every day to keep this agency moving. Your work is truly appreciated. So thank you. I'd like to introduce one of those 500 to come up and share something with us. Cynthia Jackson is one of our new recreation specialists who's based at R.H. Terrell Recreation Center, who's going to share some thoughts on our transformation.
Every face shines at our space. So now it's your time, and DPR is the place. Become part of the chain that can never be erased. Become part of the movement. Department of Parks and Rec is the place. We are linked and in sync, moving and grooving. We grow, we grain. See, this just ain't an ordinary flow. No, it's the intro to the DPR team. We are no longer behind the scenes, teaching kids to follow their dreams. We have infiltrated the Recreation Department of Washington, D.C., and we don't just have one specialty. We offer basketball, baseball, dancing, tennis, homework help, mentoring, senior fitness, camps, clinics, and track. DPR is back. There is nothing we lack. Involved in the community, overcoming challenges with immunity. DC Park is where everyone needs to be. And we got programs for all ages, from 1 all the way up to 133. How much you ask sounds too good to be fact, but it's F-R-E-E. I said free. So sign up, line up. I promise it'll change you. No doubt it'll rearrange you. And you'll be a better you and have so much fun. Why? Because DPR is for everyone.
It was all right, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, we'd be happy to take questions. There's probably people in this audience today who grew up in Parks and Recreation and Department of Recreation or whatever it may have been called, over the years. And I happen to be one of those. The first organized baseball I ever played, I was 8 years old on a 12 and under team by the Department of Recreation. And you all know that I was not 8 years old yesterday. Again, this is the continuing rollout of an agency that plays a vital role in the District of Columbia, and we will continue to ensure that it is contemporary with the needs of the people in the city. And there will be more plans that we will discuss as we move forward. So, questions of Jesus and his staff? Sure.
I'm going to ask Mr. Aguirre and Mr. Hamlin a question about the facility.
Go ahead.
What was the cost of moving DPR into this facility? And just prior to DPR coming in here, the Alcohol Beverage Control Administration had been moved from North Capitol into here, and the space had been renovated. Then you moved APRA out of here to the Reeves building, and then you renovate the space again for DPR. I'd like to ask Mr. Hanlon, well, first of all, Mr. Aguirre, what was the cost to DPR in the city, or DGS, for moving DPR into this facility, and what's going to happen to the building on 16th Street? And Mr. Hanlon, the bigger issue is, what is the thought process as regards the district's real estate, relocating facilities, at what cost, and what is the rhyme or reason of which facilities go into which government facilities or which lease space?
Well, you have a lot of questions in there. First, the cost of renovating this space to take DPR out of their former headquarters location on 16th Street to here was about $800,000. The available space in this building is about 30,000 square feet, and the top 2 floors will be occupied by Department of General Services. We're consolidating folks that are at the Penn Center and at RFK now, and bringing them all here. So the Reeves Center and this building will be the headquarters location for DGS. So we'll be sharing space with Jesus.
So you're not going to be in the Reeves building?
No, we'll be there and here.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have our divisions organized in a strategic way, so we keep our operations flowing and moving sharply. So, which part of your question would you like me to address next?
What is the overall plan in terms of DGS moving DC government buildings, facilities around? I know that you moved the Alcohol Beverage Control Administration from North Capitol over here after you renovated the space. They were here for a very short period of time, and then they moved to the Reeves building, okay? Then you moved DPR from 16th Street down here, but before they can move down here, you renovate the space again. That seems like a lot of renovating and a lot of moving. What's the overall plan of thought?
The overall plan is and we continue to move in this direction, is to reduce our leased footprint and to move agencies out of leased space and into owned space. We also have workplace design guidelines, which we continue to refine, and where we have implemented those at 1 Judiciary Square or at Reeves or even at some of our lease properties, we have reduced the footprint of office space by 20 to 25%. So district agencies are occupying fewer square feet. This is something that DGS initiated. It's consistent with what the federal government is doing, and we continue to look at our guidelines to improve them and consider options like hoteling and telecommuting so that we can use ever fewer square feet for our agencies. With regard to ABRA moving from North Capitol to here, they were in a lease space there. We wanted to put them in Reeves, which is owned. And so sometimes there are interim moves that occur. We got them out of a lease building. They were here temporarily. They went to Reeves where they'll stay. We had a need to get DPR out of their current headquarters, or rather their prior headquarters on 16th Street. It was a building that had a lot of challenges. I think you asked what's our plan with that building. That's still evolving. As you know, it's an old historic property. It has a number of challenges. It's not current with ADA standards. It doesn't have an elevator, and it has other kind of physical problems that will need to be. The city, as the mayor indicates, that property where the former DPR headquarters is actually federally owned. The city does not own this building. The city leases this building.
So Mr. Stokes' statement to me earlier before the press conference was wrong. The city, you're leasing this building?
We are leasing this building.
Who's the owner?
I'll get that for you. I don't know the landlord's name at the moment.
Isn't that contrary to what you just said in terms of moving the city into property, that we already own?
No, it's not, because we have to, there is a certain degree of lease space that we have. I can't automatically move everybody from lease space into owned space, and we, over the past several years, we have reduced our lease space footprint, and we'll do so probably this year by about 100,000 square feet.
Is a quarter of the Reeves building vacant?
No. No. Right now, we're renovating open floors in the Reeves Center for FEMS and for Department of Corrections. So what would appear to be vacant there now is actually being renovated so that we can take DOC and FEMS out of the Grimke facility and put them into Reeves.
Can I follow up quickly on that? What's going to happen with the old DPR building, the 16th Street building?
I'm not sure yet. I mean, there's a lot of options that ought to be considered. As we said a moment ago, it's actually on land that isn't owned by the district, so that may limit or constrain our options. But right now, it's under consideration.
Mr. Aguirre, could you talked about selling sponsorships. Can you explain what that means? Are centers going to be renamed or something like that, or tell me how that works?
Not necessarily. So there was legislation passed last year, the Revenue Generation Act, which allows the department to sell sponsorships and to allow fundraising activities on DPR property. And we're continuing. We're in the process of actually writing those rules and thinking about those issues about how this will actually happen. The idea is not necessarily that we're renaming recreation centers, but we're looking at other models across the city to try to generate revenue. An example I'll point to, for example, is New York City, that literally their Parks Department brings in millions and millions of dollars in sponsorships, but they don't have permanent branding. So that's event focused. They'll have a sponsor come and contribute funding to have their name branding a certain event. When the event is over, they go away, and the parks remain the same way. So,
the event, not the building.
Yeah, those are the types of things we're looking at. But again, I think at this point we're early in the conversations and in the development of these rules to make sure that we put something in place that helps the city and the agency, but also is respectful of everything that the residents would want.
So, does that mean selling naming rights in a permanent fashion to buildings or other things is off the table?
I'm not going to say that it's off the table. I think we're still working with the mayor and the rest of the administration to figure out what is exactly going to be the plan.
Is there any ballpark figure about how much could be raised through this?
There are some numbers, and because we haven't been able to do this, we hadn't actually actively solicited any of this. But in the past, we had been approached often by vendors who wanted to do this. So everywhere from a couple $100,000 to much more in terms of the numbers. So.
And where would that money go? Does that go back into Parks and Rec? Is that?
So clearly, the revenue comes to the city, and I think the way that it's parceled out obviously is up to the mayor and the administration. Obviously, we want to make sure that it supports both what we're doing programmatically, but also the task that we sort of given to the Department of General Services to maintain our facilities. I think as folks have probably witnessed, the facilities, at least the DPR facilities, just haven't had the adequate level of maintenance over the years. So as DGS is trying to get off the ground, they've been handed a pretty significant problem in terms of being able to meet that task. So as we're bringing these revenues, which are on our facilities, we're hoping that some of those will be actually given to the general services so they can do that job.
What we're saying is going into the general coffers.
That is probably a short way of saying that. Of course, I'm not going to speak for the mayor and the administration, but certainly we're part of the city. Yes. Yes.
The shorter way of saying it is no decisions have been made.
Right. But on anything, on it would be, or are you at the table, or do you plan to go to the table anytime before the summer's over with possible sponsorships?
We haven't made any decision, Deborah.
Okay. I wanted to ask another question about the proof of residency. Have these rules been tightened at all, or and did the staff go through any training when it comes to proof of residency?
Yeah, so the staff goes through the training in terms of what our requirements are. They're the same requirements we've had in the past.
They haven't changed.
They haven't changed. So generally, we have. I think you're alluding to our summer camp fees. We have two fee schedules. One is for residents of the District of Columbia, and one is for non-residents. So the residency requirements are for folks who want to register. Doesn't mean they can't participate, but they pay a different fee.
Yeah, no, but mine wasn't the fee scale at all. It was the fact that I know that kids from who do not live in the district are benefiting from the meals and the programs that are offered at our recreation centers around the year. So that's why I was asking that question.
Sure. So
about residency.
Right. We do everything we can to make sure that the services are available to the residents of the District of Columbia, but certainly we're not going to withhold a meal from a child who happens to live who comes to our centers regularly and happens to live outside of the District of Columbia. So clearly these are programs, and particularly with the meals program, because that's actually a federal program that's paid by federal monies. It isn't paid by local dollars. So we don't do residency verification in terms of our meal program. We do it for our fee-based camps, just to ensure that the fee structure is applied appropriately.
It's an opportunity, I think, to mention we're going to continue what we did last summer, and that is bringing a host of agencies together to do walkthroughs and coordinated programming. It was headed by Paul Quander. Paul's in here somewhere. Where is he? Thought I saw him. There he is. It was Paul, of course, is our Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, and it was really a successful effort last year to bring all of these agencies together, and we intend to do the same thing again this summer in the interest of not only ensuring the safety of our young people and our young adults, but also to make sure that we maximize the opportunities for people to have fun, which is what the summer ought to be an opportunity to do. Any other questions of Jesus? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions?
Can we talk about
Tom?
Obviously, there's been a lot of questions about political donations lately. A colleague of mine's done some reporting on how some subsidiary companies will donate even though perhaps they shouldn't have because the parent company has already donated. It seems like OCF should have known about this. Do you have any thoughts or plan on what needs to be done at OCF to take oversight of these kind of things?
Well, I think, I have a view, and I expressed it to Matt the other day, and that is that we really need to take a broad look at all of the campaign contribution laws in the District of Columbia at this stage. And one of the components of that would be looking at the adequacy of the staffing. And I don't mean the competence of the people. That's exactly what I don't mean. I mean just the sheer number of people that they have, given the complexity and the enormity of the responsibility. So I think this would be a favorable time to be able to do that, Tom, and look broad. I really don't know, and I think that taking a look at that would be beneficial to the city, given the number of races that we have, or number of contests that we have in the city. Obviously, we have I don't know how many ANC races. We have council races. We have the mayoral race. We have the congressional seat. We have the shadow representative races that are conducted, and they also have oversight and conduct the races pertaining to the various party committees that are structured here in the city as well. And then there are various and sundry, laws associated with and the various amounts of giving. So it really is a daunting task, and I think one of the things we need to look at is whether we have enough people there to be able to do what is required. And of course, simultaneously looking at whether the laws continue to be contemporary in those areas.
On the same subject, Mr. Mayor, can you comment on Councilmember Muriel Bowser's Mary Chay's legislation about the money orders and treating, capping the money orders $25, treating money orders same as cash. Can you comment on that?
I commented the other day on this, and I said I think it is an idea that has merit. But what I really think is that we ought to do this in a broader context so that we're looking at a whole host of issues at the same time. Because, again, we can do one thing at a time and kind of miss the larger picture, Bruce. So, again, on that specific issue, I do think it has merit. But I want to broaden this whole look.
Do you think it penalizes low-income people who do a lot of business with money orders and don't have checking accounts, who'd like to continue to?
I think that's something that we'll learn in the course. There'll be a hearing on the bill, and I'm assuming that there will be lots of people who will testify on it. And there are other people who just don't. It isn't just low-income people. There are other people, who may have immigrated to this country who want to participate in campaigns. I see you, Tom. And may not have the ability to do something other than the money order. But I think all of that will come out in the course of a hearing. That's the good thing about having a public hearing on something like this.
Mr. Mayor, on a similar subject, what is your position on the initiative effort to ban corporate donations? They're out collecting signatures now. It's not a maybe they'll do something, maybe they won't. They're actually. Are you supporting that, and would you sign the initiative?
I have not made a final decision on that, Tom. I want to go back again, not to be repetitive, but I think this is another example of the value of taking a comprehensive look at all of this stuff. We can do a piece here, a piece there, and a piece elsewhere, and perhaps in the course of it, miss the larger picture. So I'd really like to be able to be a part of looking at the larger issue at this stage.
If I could follow up on that question, Council Chairman Kwame Brown and Ms. Bowser have said that they would like to do a campaign revision, reform, whatever you want to call it, piece of legislation before late summer. I presume so it'll have an effect in the November election. Are you agreeing with that timetable? When you say a comprehensive look,
I don't know. I think you can only agree with the timetable to the extent that you understand the scope and magnitude of the issue you're trying to solve.
Would it be important, though, to try to get something done for the November election, or we'll see?
I think it's important to get something done that really advances the state of the art. If it can be done before November, that certainly would be desirable. But first and foremost, Tom, I think we ought to get it right.
You say you're supporting, or you're, in theory, supporting a comprehensive campaign finance reform measure. Does that mean that you...
I didn't say that. I said a comprehensive reform look and see what we do from there.
I'll still ask. Are you uncomfortable with the way your campaigns have been financed in the past? Is that why you think changes might be necessary?
No, I think there's a lot of issues that have been raised about a lot of campaigns, and even if we wind up at the same place at the end of the day, I think it will give us the opportunity to have looked at this to either affirm what we do now or make some changes.
Are you going back and looking at the way your campaign was funded and finding things that trouble you?
When we look at this, as I've indicated, we'll look at all campaigns and how they're run. Everybody is operating essentially by the same rules, and the question is whether those rules should be changed because things have changed in 2012 and going forward. Tom?
This is such a good subject, I hate to leave it. But
me too, Tom.
Yesterday, from your letter to the council and what the council did about the red top parking meters, one thing that was left unresolved at 6 o'clock last night when I did my story was there are many meters in the city which now have red tops. I see Mr. Bellamy somewhere here that have red tops. The program has been suspended. Who may park at the red tops that are now on the street because they only charge half the price of a regular meter? Can anyone park at those red tops until the city clarifies the policy? Should they just, as a courtesy, be left for handicapped persons with disabilities? Where do we stand with the red top meters?
Let me ask. There he is. I'm going to ask Mr. Bellamy to speak to this. But, we think that as more information rolls out on this, we think people will become more comfortable with what we're trying to accomplish here. If you go back and do the research on this, I think the original law indicating or mandating that we should do this goes all the way back to 2001. So we're trying to comply with a piece of legislation that now is a decade or 11 years old. And frankly, as someone who spent a lot of my career working in the field of disabilities, I also understand this, but I also understand being, in the course of it, being able to preserve, maintain the dignity of the people who are being given special opportunities as a result of this. With regard to the specific information, let me let Mr. Bellamy deal with that.
Can I park at a red top meter and not get a $250 ticket?
No.
Yes, the legislation emergency legislation that went in yesterday basically said we go back to how it was prior to March 1st. And so if we go back prior to March 1st, you will be able to park at that meter.
Until policies change in the future sometime.
That's correct.
Are there any tickets, and I apologize for asking the follow-up, have any $250 tickets been written on the red meters, and if so, would they be forgiven or what?
I'm unaware at this time. We're doing research, staff are doing research right now, but not to my knowledge.
Will you stop installing them until you know what the policy is?
That's correct.
How many are there now?
Right now on the street, we have between 400 and 500 on the street right now. The goal was to have 1,500 if the program goes into a full program.
And I'm right, they are half price.
There, you get to park for double the time. So you pay the prevailing rate, but you get double the time.
That's really good. Yeah. Now, can I ask you a question? Why do people have the perception, including the council, that this was rolled out in such a poor manner in terms of lack of consultation with stakeholders in the district, lack of advanced knowledge? Many of us found out about it, the evening news, and it said, and the next day the city's going to be installing these red top meters and these rules will be in place. And I think I follow the district government pretty well, but I was at a loss to say where was the consultative process in all of this. Is VDOT going back to the drawing board and say, when we roll out something like this in the future, we'll involve stakeholders, we'll do a better job, if nothing else, PR?
we actually go back, as the mayor indicated, actually go back to 2001. There have been a tremendous amount of outreach with the ADA community since 2001 concerning this law. There was a lawsuit in 2006, which we were given to 2009 to comply with. And we actually met with the stakeholders last fall. We did a soft rollout starting in January with a follow-up with pressers and information through January, February, and March. But we look forward working with the mayor and city administration as we go through this 45-day period to give more information to the public.
But Mr. Bellamy, is the issue, who do you consider to be the stakeholders? Is your department having the dialogue with individuals in the disability community as opposed to people who are the ordinary citizens who would be parking on Easy Street?
We have dialogue with the ADA community, special population community, who will be impacted, and we will continue to have that dialogue with them.
But they're not the majority of people who are impacted. The impact occurs on the person who's not part of that ADA community.
Well, one of the pieces to it, again, going back to the legislation, going back to the law, we're complying with the legislation and the law, and we continue to do outreach to the total community. Parking, as so many of you realize, that is a premium, and our goal is to create turnover parking for anyone that wants to come in the District of Columbia to do business, to work, to socialize, to go to the theater. So we'll continue to work to improve on that.
Hold on, guys. I think if there are people that may have been missed along the way, this will give us an opportunity to circle back and make sure those people are included. I'll be honest with you, as somebody who's followed, obviously, even before I became the mayor, DDOT's efforts to connect with multiple constituencies in the city, I think, by and large, they've done a good job with this. I go back to the New York Avenue situation that is being reconstructed completely, and was very, very concerned about what may happen not only to people who live in the District of Columbia, but those who use New York Avenue to traverse coming into the city. And this was, I think, April of 2011, right, Terry? And it really was a good job done, even in providing incentives for people to get out of their cars and use other methods of transportation while New York Avenue was being reconstructed. So, again, I think as a general proposition, I think the bases have been touched along the way. If not all bases were touched in this situation as they should have been, we'll circle back and make sure that's done.
Mr. Mayor, Ms. Bellamy, is there a cost involved in this? I mean, is there a warehouse somewhere with about 1,000 red top meters that were going to be installed, but those meters now won't be installed? What's the cost here?
Well, the red top meters, the IPS meters, that's just a casing. The meters can basically be used in any location. It's just what the color of the housing is. So right now we have about 500 meters that are en route. We get them in lots like that, and we'll be able to use those meters somewhere in the district.
I have a second part of that question, sort of. Abuse of the handicap parking situation. How big a problem is that these days? In the past, it's been a big deal.
We've had an issue with abuse of the ADA placards. We continue to do our research. In some corridors, as much as 90% of the on-street available parking is used by placard parking. We're doing our due diligence during this 45 days to go back and recheck and see if that number has been reduced. But we do see a high number of out-of-district placards during the course of the day.
Why don't we go to Ben, Alan, Mark.
Have you done any studies to find out how many people are using fraudulent placards or how much money the district is losing as a result of this? This is a stated goal of the Red Top program, is to eliminate fraud, right? How big of a problem is it?
Well, when you say fraud, we cannot basically say that it's fraud unless we are able to check. We do have people that use placards all day. One of the things that I learned from the ADA community is that in Virginia and Maryland, if a police officer stops and asks to see if they have the placard they actually have a wallet card that they can show. But with 17,000 spaces in the District of Columbia, it's almost impossible for us to see a person that park at and put a placard and leave. So, but what we are seeing is that they're parking for 8-10 hours a day at the same space.
So you think it's a problem, but you don't really know how big of a problem it is?
We know that they're parking at the meter 8 to 10 hours in key areas that we need to have turnover parking.
Well, there could be people who are doing that for legitimate reasons.
It could be, but
So what are you doing about that?
Wait a minute. Let's do this in order. We
Okay,
had.
you didn't call my name in the list, that's right.
That's true.
Right.
So, would you like to go after Mark C. Graves?
Sure, I'll go after Mark.
I believe I was not in that.
No, it was
Director, you had this grace period in January and February. What kind of feedback did you get during that? Did you have any indication that this kind of public uproar would be coming when the program went into full effect?
during January and February, we did receive some comments, but we received, the majority of our comments was positive, because as we started rolling out, more and more parking spaces became available in areas which we had identified that had all-day ADA placard parking. So we did start to see and receive positive feedback about the availability of parking.
Director, if I could, two questions. But first, can you just clarify what Tom asked first? You said there are 400 to 500 red top meters that are in operation on the streets today, right now, correct?
That's correct.
But as of right now, anybody can park at those?
That's correct.
Until when?
During the 45-day period.
That the council legislation impacted?
April 17th. Is it 90 days? Excuse me, it's a 90-day period.
90 days, so anybody can park there, but they're able to park for twice as long.
Correct.
Now, is the Park Mobile app synced in with these handicap meters? Do they have a specific number on them that?
That's correct.
That's accounted for in the Park Mobile app?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So now, so you're aware of the problem. What do you plan to do about it?
During this period, we will continue to do our research. We'll continue to monitor the turnover rates at the locations. We'll continue to do our outreach with the community to get additional information. We'll use all our social media apps and to make face-to-face contact with our community and our partners to get feedback from them.
Certain neighborhoods, can you tell us about those?
The majority of the meters are in the downtown corridor. Wards 1, 2, part of 3, 4, 5, and 6. Very few in 7 and 8.
And no disabled drivers, drivers with disabilities in those areas? Or just that there's a lot of parking?
It's a lot of parking, and you can still park on the street. All right.
Such a cynical question.
Last question.
Mr. Mayor, in the next few days, you're going to be rolling out your budget, and I wanted to ask you a question based upon a meeting that the council had on Monday morning to consider the $85.5 million in spending pressures and your request to the council, which they did not approve yesterday,
They didn't disapprove it either.
They only approved $318,000 from the special election of Ward 5. And as a person who was in the room, they had a great deal of concern about the $85 million in spending pressures. And largely it centered upon the list that they were provided by, I guess, your office and the CFO's office. And you have things like $12 million to fund the DCPS food program. $10 million to DDOT. You have these large numbers, and you're left to wonder, when the budget is developed by these departments and agencies, are they developing real budgets? Because it's disconcerting a few months into the fiscal year for them to have to come back and say, oh, oops, we've got these spending pressures and we need an additional $10 million. We need an additional $4 million. We need an additional, in one instance, I think it's $24 million to DCPS. So, given the fact that you're rolling out your new budget, what assurance can you give us that they are real budgets, that they include everything, including DGS accounting for facility maintenance, heating costs, and what have you, and utilities that I would think that would already be in the budget, as opposed to something that a few months into the next fiscal year they'll have to come back and say, oops, we didn't account for utilities.
Let us start discussing the question, because I forget where you started at that rate. First of all, I think any budget, we have provided a chart that has been widely disseminated that has demonstrated that since 2001 that spending pressures have been a part of how the budget is managed and administered. And the chart that we issued showed that the spending pressures for the current fiscal year are actually the lowest in that entire period. We've had spending pressures in the city that have been as much as $300 million, and I don't think spending pressures should be unexpected. I don't think it's possible to take a budget that is $9 to $10 billion and be able to predict with absolute precision changes along the way. That even in running a nonprofit organization that may have much smaller budget, that certainly is expected. Now, you have a document, I think, there that other people in this room may not have the benefit of, but some of those spending pressures were actually transmitted to the council back in January, and we've had continuing discussions about those. Some of those things that you cited are things over which the executive has no control. For example, there, I think charter schools are one of the issues that's listed there. Settlements and judgments over which we have no control because the courts make those decisions. There's a WMATA issue there. We don't manage WMATA. I think you'll find if you go through and calculate those amounts that a lot of those are not things over which the executive has control, but at the end of the day, we'll have to responsibly manage those. And I believe with respect to the special election, we have agreed to reprogram $300 and some thousand to be able to ensure that the special election goes forward in May. But I think anybody that expects a budget that is done many, many months before it even begins to be executed and then months into the fiscal year to be absolutely accurate, if you will, that's just not realistic. Because things and conditions change, and I think that document you have is an illustration of how those things change. That's a part of managing. That's a part of being able to be able to respond to issues as they come along. And if offline, if you want to go over each one of those, we can try to tell you, the various, issues that arise around those things to which we may be responsive. But I don't think at all spending pressures are anything but an inherent and expected process of managing a budget.
Are you on the same page with Mr. Gandhi now that after that little exchange of letters, you guys locked arms in unison or going forward?
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with spending pressures.
I'm moving on.
You also know that gentleman over there said that was the last question, right? We're done. If you have a question, Tom, I'll be happy to answer that. Thank you all very much. Okay. Yeah.
Same old.